Hey guys, this is Ruben Langdon, aka Dante from Devil May Cry, aka Ken Masters from Street Fighter, and also Chris Redfield from the Resident Evil series. And you are listening to the Kasanova podcast, the #1 podcast in Hawaii. Jackpot.
All right, and welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast and #1 podcast in the Pacific, the Kasanova podcast. I'm your host, Mekel Kasanova, and I've got the honor and privilege of having the one, the only BrokenGamezHDR. Man, welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you on, man. How you living today?
What's going on, man? Appreciate you inviting me to the podcast, just to talk, hit some topics, have a real organic conversation. So definitely appreciate it, man.
Definitely, man. Big fan of your work and your content over the years, man. You've been grinding, trailblazing, like with everything, with YouTube, content creating, the Weapon Wheel podcast, partner with Avermedia. Bro, your list goes on and on. Like, what is there anything you're not doing?
I mean, I try to stay busy, man. I try to keep finding new things to venture out to do, getting involved with new stuff to, just expand the channel and the podcast and everything like that. So I'm always looking for opportunities, man. I'm trying to build it to be something that, that I never thought it could be, just continue building the brand.
Yes, sir. And where can people find you at?
Oh yeah. Weapon Wheel podcast is 6 p.m. Sundays live. You should definitely come check us out. The podcast is funny. We have plenty of fun. We have great conversations, touch on a lot of gaming topics and everything like that. So yeah, you can look for BrokenGamezHDR on YouTube. I'm also on Twitch. So yeah, just check out the channel and you'll find all the links from there. So yeah, and you could just search Weapon Wheel podcast to find the podcast. We're on all the major streaming services also, because we do it live on YouTube, then we put it on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, everywhere.
Yes, sir. So I'm dropping that in a link. If you're watching right now on Twitch, we're live on Twitch, but if you're watching, the link's there when it's re-uploaded on YouTube and on the podcast now, let them have links to everything. So make sure you go show up and support. But yeah, man, let's go ahead and dive into it, man. Let's see. What was that moment that got you into gaming? I know we all got that origin point, but what was that point for you?
It was just when my parents bought me Super Nintendo. I would say I remember that very faintly. That's one of the things. Even though you were as a kid, you remember it pretty well. Parents bought me a Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Mario. Got Donkey Kong. Man, what else was there? I mean, there was a couple others that came along. I mean, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars.
It needs a remake or a re-release.
yeah, it definitely does. A bunch of hard stuff that we, couldn't beat. Lion King. Play a little bit of Contra, that stuff. So, ever since then, I was, it was definitely a hobby from that day. Loved it. And, never stopped since then.
I feel it, man. And it's crazy. When you think about cause I believe you and I were around the same age, but looking at how, when we're growing up, the idea of covering games and reviewing games and working with the game industry back in the day, that was impossible. You never think it was happening, but you're trailblazing and doing the damn thing right now, man. But how did you get into being a content creator? What was that journey like?
So the story is, I think some people know the story. It was my freshman year in college. And, I was just bored one day and I was on YouTube and everything like that. And YouTube was still obviously very young at this point. It's crazy that, YouTube was just came out like 2006 or 7, sometime
Yeah.
around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube is still YouTube is in its teenage years, people forget.
Yeah.
But it was around then I was on YouTube, and back then it wasn't as organized. There wasn't like as much of a community back then on YouTube. You didn't have your different sectors or communities for gaming and the other fields. It was just like all mishmashed together and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw people playing games, and I knew I was good at games. And I was like, I don't see no reason I can't do this. And I'm bored anyway. Might as well be something cool to kill time.
Yes, sir.
So, just figured out what I needed, the basics of what I needed. Worked from my laptop that I had at the time in college, and I just started. I think my first game that I actually covered was like Fight Night, the Fight Night that was out at the time, whatever Fight Night that was in 2008. And I made some tutorial videos and stuff like that, different tutorial videos about different things, mostly involving gaming. Channel really started to take off when I started doing like the Uncharted 2 multiplayer videos, because there wasn't a lot of people doing it at the time and stuff like that. I just learned a little bit about video editing as I went along, learned more about production, the hardware that I needed, all the quality stuff to just improve your videos. I was already, a pretty good speaker and everything like that. Communication was my thing. So, that kind of came naturally. And that's really how it got started. I was just bored, let me try this out. I'm on YouTube, and then, an audience just like kind of gathered around me from there.
That's what's up, man. And it's one of the amazing things is like you're one of the pioneers, you're one of the OGs when it comes to it. And you look at it now, like I've talked to so many other content creators, over the years, and one of the things a lot of us have said, like, we wish we had did it sooner, but you had the inclination to do it back in the day before it got to where it is now. Because right now, YouTube and just content creation in general is super oversaturated.
Oh, very saturated. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to really differentiate yourself. It's only going to get harder. So establishing an audience, when at a time where there weren't so many content creators to filter through, it was definitely easier back then. I give credit to anybody that starts now and is able to grab the attention of a dedicated audience and fan base, especially like on Twitch, because I find it very elusive or very impressive when people gain an audience on Twitch, because I can admit I don't really know how to do that. Like, I've been on YouTube so long, like I know how YouTube works. I know how the formula and the algorithm works, how to get views and everything on YouTube. Twitch is like a completely different beast. And like all the viewers I get on Twitch are pretty much from my YouTube. So, those that just start organically on Twitch and gain an audience, I find that extremely impressive, especially with how, how saturated things are now, especially because like on YouTube, I feel like YouTube create an environment even for, someone who has no audience to grow. Like just if you make the right topic on the right side of the screen, if you make a similar topic to another popular topic, people might discover you just by accident. But I feel like Twitch is kind of like set up to make the popular get more popular, Yeah. And so.
No, I fully agree with that. I switched over from YouTube. Like, I used to stream on YouTube for years. And then like this year, I feel like they started doing a lot of algorithm changes and whatnot. And I started having some weird things happen where like it literally started a stream, and within like the first minute or two, I was immediately demonetized, and I didn't say or do anything. And so it was weird. Apparently the issue's gone now. And I've had this idea or this desire probably to go back to YouTube. But yeah, on Twitch, I can't figure it out because it's like some things work, some things don't. It's like it seems like everyone on Twitch is trying to play whatever is a trending game. If it's Among Us or it was Fallout guys, and now it's Genshin Impact, and everyone's trying to play that. And it's like, it seems like the only way you're gonna grow is either you got to get rated, you got to get a shout out, or you got to try to be at the forefront of whatever is a new trending game. And even then, good luck being found, because you can't. Trying to find people on Twitch is damn near impossible.
Yeah, and it's like it's like, I don't know if like Twitch is not it doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like a place where you're supposed to stay on one video for a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know if others see it like that. Yeah, it's just difficult. And kudos to those who figure it out, who figure out how to finesse it and make it work for them. And one thing I can't do is I can't follow trends. I don't care. That's one thing I've like stuck to, is like, to me, it doesn't matter how popular a game is. If I don't like it, I'm not touching it. And that's just something I think, and that helps you keep your sanity, because if you're just playing something just to get an audience, like you're just gonna honestly be unhappy playing it. And why play games if you're gonna be unhappy? That's supposed to be the one thing that you truly do for your enjoyment. So yeah, I don't care how popular something is. I'm like, if that's not for me, no, I'm not giving it no time of day. So
yeah, and it's one of the things, like, I fully agree with you, because I see a lot of people that whatever the trending game, they're trying to hop on it. And it's like, how are you going to establish yourself or stand out if you're just another flavor of the week? Because you can go on Twitch and say, okay, case in point, what was it? Among Us, which I feel like people that fell out. It's not the trending game anymore. You go and look up that game, you're gonna see a bunch of people all playing that. So how are you gonna stand out? I'd rather catch somebody playing something that they're actually enjoying than actually go and see someone that's just trying to follow a trend. I don't know. The whole thing with content creation, I feel like a lot of people have this mentality of you just got to chase the trend. No, you don't. You really don't.
Yeah. Especially because, like you said, you're not gonna stand out. You're not, and it makes me think of like Call of Duty back in the day. I mean, Call of Duty is still popular, but its popularity has waned a lot from like last generation and everything like that. As far as like if you were a big Call of Duty content creator back in the day, like you were the biggest thing on the internet, and a lot of people did it just to chase a trend. Like, the most popular people on YouTube are people who do live commentaries for Call of Duty, and some people just hopped on that trend. But like, where like all those big Call of Duty content creators now? Some of them are still here, but if you noticed, a lot of them are gone, disappeared, and now we're relevant. Because a lot of them just played the game because it was popular. They was just chasing what was the hotness at the time, and now it's kind of faded. You don't really see that. I mean, and some of them have expanded to playing other games, but the thing is, when you make yourself out to be this one thing, that audience doesn't necessarily always follow you when you do something else, right? If you play Call of Duty for 5 straight years and nothing else, and you suddenly turn on another game, they're going to be like, some of the dedicated ones, are going to be down because they, watch you maybe for your personality, but the other ones, a lot of them are just going to be flaky and gone.
Yeah, it's a hard balancing act in a way. There are certain games, like when I was and I kind of ran through it this year too. Like there was a point where when I was streaming on YouTube, and you probably gonna think I'm crazy. Dude, I was streaming 6 days a week, twice a day. Like we're talking about 1 4-hour stream in the morning, 1 4-hour stream at night, and it's still trying to do podcasting, content creation, and everything else. And I literally burnt myself out because I was literally I played through all the Resident Evil games. I played through a bunch of these other games, Devil May Cry and such. And I was trying to because I was trying to figure out at one point, like how I needed to, I guess, cater to my audience versus catering to what I actually wanted to do. And I realized like you can really make yourself miserable to the point where if I pick up the sticks, I'm never going to want to play. Like it's just the idea of touching it. And I feel like a lot of content creators kind of fall in that trap of, you know, I'm trying to do this for my audience. I'm trying to do this for my audience. But the thing is, if you're miserable, everyone can see it and feel that energy. So,
because like one thing I do, I don't do a lot. I do it sometimes, you know, not with every game, is like I started doing playthroughs. Playthroughs were never really my thing and what people really watch my channel for me to like play through an entire game. But I do it now sometimes with specific games. Not every game. There may be a game that comes out and I'm like, do I want to live stream this or do I just want to enjoy this on my own? And if I feel like I want to enjoy it on my own, I'm not live streaming it. And I'll tell my audience that. And then there's games where I've started to live stream and I'm like, this game ain't it. I'm not enjoying this. And I'll just tell them, I'm not continuing this this playing through this game no more. Like this playthrough is done. And I'm not afraid to do that because I'm not about to put myself through suffering of playing a game I'm not enjoying just because it seems like it's what I got to do. They understand, like, no, I'm not continuing this game. This game is terrible. I'm done with this. So I've seen success with certain games that, you know, like The Last of Us. I think like I live streamed The Last of Us Part 2 and like each one got a lot of views. You know, I know that I now know like the certain type of games that's good for me to live stream over others. So I'm very selective with which games I do a live playthrough on, and you know and like because sometimes you know you don't want to entertain an audience, even though I'm not afraid to just like ignore the chat and just enjoy the video game. I think some live streamers are afraid to do that. Like, oh, I can't ignore my chat. I tell my chat straight up, like, listen, I'm live streaming because I want y'all to see like my reactions, but I'm also trying to pay attention and be very, you know, immersed in the game. So if I'm ignoring y'all, you know, that's what I got to do to, you know, really be all the way into this game. So I'm not afraid to do that. You just really got to do what makes you feel good doing your own hobby.
Yeah. And that's one of the things too, like when it comes to streaming, a lot of people, like I've seen this trend come out and I'm kind of curious about your thoughts on it. The whole thing with stream coaches or paying people to teach you how to stream and how to act on camera. Like, what do you think about that?
I didn't even know like stream coaching was a thing. I mean, I do see people who like what I believe to be like fake reactions and, you know, very dramatic, you know, behavior on stream. I don't believe it to be true. I think, you know, they're just playing up to their audience to create, I guess, an atmosphere and a tone of like fun and like hype and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I can't fake hype. You know, people have told me that I have a very like, I can have like a very low energy and monotone, you know, type of energy and personality. It depends on what I'm doing. It depends on what I'm playing. Depends on what I'm, you know, watching and everything like that. Right. But I'll tell them I'm not giving y'all no fake reactions. I'm not going to like be, oh, you know, screaming. There's very few occasions where I've like yelled and screamed at the top of my lungs for something. Right. I don't believe if you're screaming at the top of your lungs for something you see, for every little thing, I don't believe it's authentic. Like I don't think nothing, like everything shouldn't make you that excited. Not everything. There's a select thing, right? So I'm gonna be real about it, you know, and they know that, and you'll find people in an audience who are okay with being real. You know, you don't have to be screaming and having like these wild dramatic reactions to everything. There, you know, find an audience that's, you know, there's an audience for everybody. Not everybody wants that type of personality. Not everybody has to be PewDiePie. You know, like not everybody's looking for a PewDiePie.
And that's the other thing too, is like with people, when it comes to like, again, like reactions or people trying to do content creation or YouTube in general, trying to like put on this persona. I don't understand that. Like, because to me, and I said this in my podcast yesterday, like, people can smell that bullshit hella quick. Like, if you're putting on a fake persona just because you think it's going to get you views, and then people meet you or they see you when you're not doing that. Like, case in point, that not taking shots at nobody, but when I was at E3, I saw a lot of creators that put on this overly positive, to the point ain't nobody that damn positive persona. And then when I met them at E3 and I saw how they were interacting with people, I'm like, yo, that person's a dick. Like,
I have experienced the same thing. Like, you just people that, and it hasn't happened a lot to me. I would say most of the people that I've met, that I've known online, that I've met when I meet them in real life, I could say most of them are the same people. But there's definitely been a few where, like, you know them online, you see them, and then you just go up to them and say, "Oh, what's up?" And then they're like just this completely different person, and they act really weird when you just say like hey to them and everything like that. I don't know, like, people definitely put on this persona, and I would say, like, I'm not exactly the way I am online as I am in person. I'm still the same guy. Like, you could still, like, I'm still very much authentically me, but I would say my you have to, when you're in front of the camera, you have to, I guess, present a certain way. But in person, when I'm just talking to you, when I'm just talking to you 1v1, it may not be exactly like that, but I'm still very much the same person, it's not much different.
Yeah. And do you feel like there's, these people trying to come in to like content creating now, or even folks that are established, do you think it's a struggle for a lot of people just to be real, be honest? Because I feel like being real, like the way you are, the way I am, the way, I know I see Avedon in the chat, people being real, that draws people to you, that natural energy, like people just, they're drawn to it, versus this, hi guys, it's such, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely like this very scripted, in a box type of type of speaking, that is very cookie cutter and everything like that. And I think people are tempted to be that way because there's an audience. They feel like I guess there's an audience, and that's how they think society expects them to be. I think it's a very societal thing. But I tend not to think about how society wants me to speak, how society would want to hear it. I kind of ignore those things, because, once again, you just gotta be yourself. You can't worry about what people want or think. I mean, even like even when I like talk to my wife about like public speaking, right? She's not like, I can say I've never been shy public speaking. It's just never something that's bothered me, because my trick is just to not care what people think. If you don't care what people think, public speaking can't bother. But, for other people, that's kind of hard to do, to just not care about what people think. Like, whoa, what if they're judging the way I look, the way I talk? All right, okay, let them do that. I don't care. I could say it's a gift to not care sometimes about things.
Yeah.
And when you don't care, that's, it helps just to be, really it helps you to be just yourself. The way you talk and the way you are online is how you should be. It's the same as how you should be if like they were like right in front of you, or these are one of your friends, or like one of your just, one of your people you actually know.
Yeah. And like in carrying that into like working with brands and companies, like I know you're sponsored and you work with a lot of companies. I've noticed some people, some creators don't understand that, like, when it comes to working with brands, like there are certain things you have to deal with, like NDAs and, different type of contractual agreements. And then like I saw today, there's a dude who, I guess he got the G.I. Joe game and he signed an NDA not to talk about it. You may have seen it. Like a lot of PR folks were tweeting about that yesterday and today. And this dude ended up, he broke the embargo. And then when the PR person reached out to him to take it down because he broke embargo, he was acting real out of pocket towards him, threatening him, cussing him out, and this. And it's like, the dude put that, the PR person showed it on Twitter, and then the dude got 86 around, from every industry. I feel like a lot of creators don't realize that when it comes to working with the industry, it's huge, but it's real small.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think some people can get to that level where they can get review codes and stuff for games and everything like that. And I if you're new or a novice or new to it, you're not very experienced in that, you cannot take that stuff very serious. I don't know how experienced this person is, but you could easily ignore it and not realize that it's something serious, and you can burn bridges and burn connections. If you're given a code, I always try to make sure I read the guidelines and be sure if I can upload anything and everything like that. But yeah, you take it serious because you're burning bridges, you're burning connections, and that could really, help your brand and help your channel. If you don't, if you have those, and if you don't have those, you're kind of screwing yourself.
Yeah. So when it comes to working with companies, have you gotten to the point, because I know you're a very successful YouTuber, very, very popular, very, very big YouTuber, very big podcaster as well. Have you ever, do you have to deal with the point where when you're getting emails every day, you're getting a bunch of offers, a bunch of codes for stuff, and you're like, hey, I just don't have the time to, or I'm not interested in working on that?
Yeah, I would say the majority of emails I get to try something or play something, it's not something I'm interested in at all. It's, it might be some mobile game or something like that, or try out this product that I know I have no interest in actually trying it out. We'll send you this product, for you to review it and everything like that. And if it's not something I truly want, I'm not gonna do it. I mean, if it's even when it comes to working with brands, if it's not an item that I would use myself, I'm not doing it. Because I'm I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna review it, and I'm not somebody who likes to have pointless items around just to have it. And then I'm gonna have to try to get rid of it. I'm gonna have to try to sell it, or maybe you have to even throw it away. So even if it's a cool piece of tech, if I'm not going to use it, I'm not taking the offer.
Yeah, I've over the last year to year and a half, I gotten to a point now where I keep getting review, we'd like you to cover this indie game, or we want you to cover this game, and I'm over here I have absolutely no interest in that. And it's I know other content creators that get these opportunities as well, and they feel like they need to cover everything that's thrown at them. And I'm like, no, no, you don't want to do that. It's okay to say no, and you don't want to muddle and confuse your brand, where you're just reviewing everything. And I feel like a lot of people feel like they have to cover everything because they're like, oh, I need to be the first to cover this, cover that, just because it's on the Switch, or just because it's on this, or just because it's on that. And it's like, no. If it doesn't fit with what you're doing, then don't do it. And you can respectfully, just say, no, I'm not interested, or I'm stacked. So it's yeah.
When people are trying to gain more attention, notoriety, they can be pressed to try to accept everything and try everything and everything like that. I've never done it myself, and I'm thankful that I'm at the point where I don't feel the need to, even when it comes to making videos about a certain topic. There's news that I feel that comes out that's worth me making a video for. And sometimes I still don't do it. 'Cause if it's not a video I'm like really passionate to make, I just don't even do it anymore. I'm like, yeah, it's relevant news. And it could be, I'm sure people would watch it, but if it's not something I feel like I really need to talk about in a single video, I mean, I'm going to cover it on the podcast anyway. So, it's just, I'm just glad I'm at a point where I could just really just do what I want.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on people that assume that, what you do or what I do, what other content creators do, like this, YouTube, streaming, content creating, that it's so easy that anyone can do it and be super successful and there's no work that goes into it? I think that's wild.
Yeah, I think people don't understand. Like I talk about this with my podcast members, people don't realize how like mentally draining sorry about that.
No.
People don't realize like how mentally draining just a 2-hour podcast is. We do a 2-hour, sometimes it goes to like 2-3 hours on Sundays, and you're mentally drained after that, right? And being mentally drained can be sometimes worse than like physically draining. Like I feel like if you physically you tired, you could take a nap and probably feel better. I feel like when I'm mentally drained, I gotta like go to like really go to sleep. And there's more that goes into it than just showing up at a certain time and just talking about topics. Like typically what I do is on Sunday mornings, I wake up and I like to be thorough about the topics that we talk about. I don't like to miss anything important or relevant. And there's certain things that I obviously see as relevant or not relevant. In my view, I don't like to miss anything relevant. So I have it's in my bookmarks. I have, how many websites is it? It's like gaming news websites. This is like what, 15 I go through. I go through 15 different websites and see what the news was for the last 7 days. So that's a lot of like clicking through pages and making sure I don't miss any news. And throughout the week, I like and retweet gaming news. And some people, don't realize I'm not doing that just to because I actually like it. That's a record of relevant news. So at the end of when I go through all the websites, I go back to my Twitter and I look at all my likes. That's another way I keep track of all the relevant gaming news. So that could take a while to do. And then, you set up the podcast, post and, you make the thumbnail and, all that stuff goes into it. And then on my podcast, we do an after dark. That after dark sometimes is like two hours, so that's like a 4-hour podcast that I'm doing on a Sunday when I would rather just be in bed with my wife. So, it definitely, takes something out of you.
Yeah. And it's, man, I tell you, every time someone's like, oh, it's not work, you're just playing around, I'm like, you want to do what I'm doing for a week? It's wild. Especially when it comes to podcasting,
Right.
People don't understand how much goes into that, because not only doing the video version of the podcast, having an audio version of it, everything that comes with monitoring, mic levels, making sure if you're doing the video version, you got the layout, everyone, is however you got it set up in the quadrant, trying to make sure you're keeping up with the chat. Like, people don't realize podcasting is not easy. It's not just hit record and just start talking into the mic. There's so much behind the scenes that goes with it. But what's your thoughts on it, man? Like, how's your experience over the years that you've been doing it?
Yeah, I mean, as the host, you got to moderate and you got the list of topics, got to make sure that you don't spend too much time on one topic, especially if you want to get out of there on time. It's all, you checking the chat, reading the super chats. It's plenty of management, it's just, overall looking at everything. I deal with stuff and other people deal with stuff like your internet just going out at random times, the outage happening. technical issues, like you said, somebody's voice isn't coming through for whatever reason. Like random stuff like that just pops up. And, you got to be able to like just adjust on the fly. So, and it's not easy getting a group of people that have synergy, that have chemistry, that just have chemistry, just talking. That's not easy to find and not easy to do, right? That's a big thing, because you could have, a whole bunch of people that, are great at games, know a lot about games, but if they don't have any chemistry, it's just 5 people talking, but it feels like they're talking independent. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's not as entertaining to listen to.
Yeah, there has to be that symmetry, and that's one of the things like I really like about your show, the Weapon Wheel podcast, is like each and every one of you, that there's that dynamic, there's a synergy. You guys can flow off each other so easily, and it's like people may not realize it. That probably was not easy getting that symmetry to begin with, but let's talk about like Weapon Wheel podcast. Like what was the idea or the founding idea that came into like creating the show?
Yeah, so it pretty much like it stemmed from Skype. Everybody used to use Skype before Discord, and so it used to be a bunch of us that used to get in Skype calls and just talk trash about and talk about games and everything like that. And pretty much I saw this was like, now like a lot of people have podcasts. This was like back when only a few people, I would say on the YouTube side or the content creator side, were doing podcasts. You had professionals and stuff like that were doing podcasts, but like actual just creators doing their own podcasts, there wasn't a lot of that. So I thought I'm like, podcasts are definitely going to get popular. I saw it. I definitely saw that coming. So I'm like, I definitely need to get what we do in the Skype calls as a more organized, format, like get an actual group together to do this regularly. So, I got the different personalities and the people I was cool with, who I thought that for one, I wanted them to have different perspectives on things. I didn't want all of them to view things the same, because I don't want to hear people agreeing with each other for 2 hours, so one of those different personalities, and that's the main thing that that I went for, and that's how it kind of came together.
Okay, cool. And with like the doing the video, was it always the intention to do like a video variation of the show and then doing audio, or were you just doing them both at the same time?
Yeah, so I think the video, I always had planned to do the video version, just because I'm a visual person. I think I actually don't like when there's not a lot of them that are still just audio podcasts anymore. Most are video and audio, but I actually don't like when podcasts are just audio. Like I need, even if I'm not always looking at the podcast, I need to know that there's a visual aspect to this.
Yeah.
Where you could, even if it's not your face, like our podcast, we're not on, or we don't have our face cams on, but it's something, so being that I'm a visual person, because I started on YouTube. So I definitely felt it had to be visual, and because it's just another dimension. And then I think it was when people started requesting for it to be other places, that's when we put it on the other audio platforms.
So the other thing too, I've noticed, especially within the last couple of years, that when it comes to creators having podcasts, like it seems like almost everyone now is popping up with a show, and I'm not knocking that. That's cool. Like I think that's great, but it's just I'm seeing like a lot of, you got celebrities hopping up with podcasts, you've got content creators coming up with podcasts, and it's like I feel like that's going to start to become the next, or maybe it already is the next oversaturated thing. But how would you say would be a good way for a podcaster to stand out in this market right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always even looking for myself the ways to differentiate Weapon Wheel. Like, I think it does come down to the personalities, because I'm subscribed to like a lot of podcasts that discuss a lot of the same things, in the gaming. I mean, it's gaming, so what one podcast discuss regarding gaming, the other one is most likely going to discuss it. But what I look for is, what are you saying differently? What is your different opinion versus the last podcast I listened to? Right. If I get something that I didn't hear there, even if I don't agree with it, because I don't listen to podcasts to agree with you. Right. If I do, that's fine. But I don't look for podcasts that I'm just going to agree with. So it's just a different perspective and a different opinion. Visuals, the visual side helps. The production part of it, just small things, even the title, the title of what you name the episode, small stuff like that just helps it to stand out.
Okay. So shifting topics, so people think that we've got these console wars. I find it interesting. And I think it's just because of growing up in the Super Nintendo versus Sega Genesis era. I feel like that was a console war. Like, Nintendo and Sega were at each other's throat. When it comes to stuff now, I personally feel like it's really what controller do you want to use, but in the sense of what Sony has exclusives, Microsoft, they really don't. And Nintendo has its hardcore fan base. But what are your thoughts on this console wars that people claim?
Man, I look at it as just like entertainment. I don't really look at it as, I mean, I may refer to it as the console war, but it's really like entertainment for me. And I would hope most people don't take it serious. It always makes Twitter a more like entertaining and fascinating place to be when there is this illusion of like different fan bases, going at war, using ammo of whatever news comes out to go at each other. I see no harm in it. I know there's some people that think it's like this bad thing to have, these fan bases go at each other, as long as it's not toxic, as long as there's fun. It's funny, it's jokes, it's memes, it's trolling. As long as it's all of that and you don't take it too serious, I don't think it should go away, because it would be boring. Like games should be the most important thing and the center of the fun. But things would be boring if there weren't fan bases like having this like kind of argumentative or this conversation, debates and all that stuff. It would be boring. It's completely harmless as long as it's not like something personal or they take it too serious. And it shouldn't go away.
Okay. And, speaking of the different consoles that are out, and I guess with their approach to gaming, what do you think happened with Microsoft from like 360 era to the Xbox One into, I guess, the strategy they're going into with games as a service? Like, it felt like from like 2005 to, I guess you could say like 2011, 2012, like 360 was kind of the go-to console you saw more people having than PlayStation 3. But it had games. It had a crap ton of games. Yeah. But then you go to the Xbox One and it's like, Microsoft, what are you doing? And then now it's like games as a service, and that's getting a lot of blowback, especially some folks like Game Pass, some folks absolutely hate it. But how do you feel about it? Like, as someone who not only a gamer, but someone who works alongside the industry.
Well, yeah. So during the 360 era, what Microsoft was doing was throwing their money around, right? They
Mhm.
came into that generation, obviously still being, the underdog, versus because the PS2 is the most successful console ever, you
Yeah.
know. So that's what they were up against with the original OG Xbox. So they came into the 360 era and they used one of their biggest advantages, and that's what they're actually doing now. One of their biggest advantages for them is money, and they're throwing it around. They're throwing it around to buy new studios. During that era, they threw it around to get exclusive games with developers that they didn't own, but they still like paid for the rights to have the game exclusive. So that brings people to your console, and what and that worked out great for them. That worked out
Mhm.
great for them. They had the better console. Aside from Red Ring of Death and everything like that, they did have the better console technically. And just when it came to the this generation that we're technically still in,
Mhm.
um, they just made some mistakes with the messaging. Uh, they didn't secure the same. They weren't able to secure the same like third party, uh, deals that they had the gen before, because PlayStation came out very aggressive and said that, okay, we have to throw our money around and we got to beat them at their own game. And it was vital that they did that because uh, PlayStation, Sony depends on PlayStation's success very heavily.
Yeah.
Microsoft will be completely fine if they stop making consoles. But PlayStation, Sony isn't like selling as much like TVs and a whole bunch of other products that they used to at one time. At one time, their products were seen as the best in the industry when it came to electronics. It's not like that no more. So
Yeah.
they had to really focus on making the PlayStation 4 extremely successful, and that's what they did, and they one upped the Xbox One when it came to a lot of categories, especially the games, and the games are obviously the most important aspect, and that's where they beat Microsoft this generation the most. And the first and like Microsoft's first party was very limited, and
Mhm.
and and PlayStation was just putting out better first party games throughout these 7 years. Now Microsoft seems to be in a very good position. They learned from getting destroyed pretty much for 7 years, and now heading into next generation, they're obviously gonna do much better. We still have to see as far as the quality of the games go, because even though they bought a whole bunch of a whole bunch of studios to add to their first party, we still don't have a lot of games. What we have is a whole bunch of opportunities and
Mhm.
potential. The games still have to be released, and we have to see how they turn out.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Xbox Game Pass and backwards
So,
compatibility?
so I'm not a fan of either service. I personally don't care about backwards compatibility, whether it's on the PlayStation or the Xbox. I just don't really go back and play a lot of old games. There's like very few exceptions, but typically I don't do it. game
Mhm.
pass Game Pass is a great service. Like I said, I don't use it, but I still see it as a great service. It's something I've said, like, if I had kids, they would just be using Game Pass. They would have access to this huge library of games.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't have to buy them nothing. Like our parents, like, they would have to go out and buy us a game every single time if
Mhm.
we every time we beat one. Now you can pay, I don't know how much it is, like $10 a month, probably less than that. Um, and they get this huge library of games. So kids are very fortunate when it comes to playing video games now. So it's a great package. It's a great service. I do still think they used it as a crutch to compensate for what they were lacking, which was
Mhm.
quality first party games. And I hope it's not. I think their idea behind it, even if it wasn't their idea, they still used it as like, okay, we're gonna put all these games to the Game Pass, especially first party wise. And if they're not great, well, at least it's just in Game Pass. And I think they kind of justified it and used it as a crutch in that sense. But it's a great service. There's no denying that it's still a great service. And them using backwards compatibility, they see backwards compatibility and Game Pass as just a huge library of games, right? It's like I guess what I look at as my library of games are the future. I look at my library of games as the future games that are coming out, right? Game Pass, backwards compatibility. That's all games, even mainly ones that have previously come out. And there's obviously there's more older games than there are new games. You know what I'm saying? So they're still tapping into that pot, which is it's a smart thing to do.
All right, we got a question in the chat. It's from Chips and Six. He said, "Question for you guys: do you think that Microsoft bought most of the studios just to shelve them and not have the competition to utilize them?"
So I would say that's a byproduct of getting these studios, but I wouldn't say that was their intent. That just a byproduct of buying a studio is your competitors don't get them, right? It's just another one of those advantages to doing it. I do think they want all these studios to be regularly putting out quality content, and they want them to really act like a great first party studio. And I'm sure Microsoft is putting a lot of money behind all these studios. So yeah, it's a one up of the competition, and it's to add to the ecosystem, get more people in the ecosystem of Xbox.
And the way I look at it too, I used to work for Microsoft, and one of the things that I saw a lot, as a company, because like you said, Microsoft has a lot of money to throw at just about anything without, and they can waste billions and not take a hit. One of the things that I've seen with them is how they will throw money into something brand new as theirs and then drop it because they can. They've done that with their phone line, with the Lumia line. They bought them out. Nokia. They had Nokia on lock for years. They've done that with, the people that made the Zune. They did that with so many different services.
They purchased Skype also, right?
Yeah, Skype. Yeah.
Yeah, and Skype kind of became useless after that.
Yeah, so it's like I don't think they intend to just shelve them. It's just byproduct of just having money, and like you said, the competitor doesn't. They don't have access to it.
Right.
Let's see. Abadan got a question. Abadan says, "You both spoke about not following trends. How do you create a demand for your brand and establish relevancy?" Yeah, that's a good question.
So one thing I think people do need to realize is like your audience may not always be a huge audience, right? My personality just may not be a 500,000 type of audience personality. That's not the type of numbers that my personality, that my brand may pull. I do think there are 500,000 people out there that my type of content is for, but it's not like I think it's very scattered, and like actually finding it is a little bit more challenging versus somebody else's personality. It might be for a lot more people, so it's easy for them to find them, right? I think it might be some people have a thing that's more for a general audience and everybody.
Yeah.
So I think, like, you know, you just have to understand that, you know, just understand that, you know, that might not be this huge number of the masses might not be your number, that might not be your audience. But I think people see a lot of other content creators and get their and see their views, and it might be like, I don't know, 10,000, and you might have 1,000 or maybe 500. And I think on YouTube can make 500 seem like it's not a lot. 500 people watching you is still 500 people. Like, imagine 500 people being in an audience listening to you. We would consider that to be a pretty good audience. But because it's on the internet, because it's on YouTube, we're like, oh, 500 is nothing. 500 is still 500 when you think about it, you know. So that's another thing you got to be aware of.
And you know, to add on to what you're saying, like, you know, and I've said this before, like, the one thing, exactly, if you got 500 people or 1,000 people or however many people following you, checking out your content and doing whatever, that's still 500 to 1,000 people giving you their time that they could be doing something else. They're giving their time to you. As far as like staying relevant, I think it really comes down to like just making content that you authentically and organically enjoy. Because if you're not, it goes back to what you were saying, like, if you're not enjoying what you're doing,
right,
then why are you doing it?
Exactly.
You know, like for me, like, I'm out here in Hawaii, I'm from here, and I don't have a Hawaii audience. So it's like, I could cater to, you know, and I've talked to my wife about that a lot. You know, sometimes it does bother me that I don't have support from folks in Hawaii, but then I look at the fact that, okay, my content doesn't resonate with people here, but I got people around the world that like my stuff, people that love my podcast, people that love my reviews, they love my streams all over the world. Why am I going to be caught up? And Hawaii folks are going to get pissed at me for saying it, but hey, it is what it is. Why am I going to be caught up on a dot on the globe, not caring about me when the rest of the world does? And they're caring about what I'm doing that I actually enjoy. So long as that passion is coming through, that you're enjoying what you're doing, that's really what it matters, because you may at some point do something that just takes off.
Yep. Unexpected. Yeah.
Yeah. So just have fun with it. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. just be you. Just be you.
One of the questions I definitely want to ask too, what's your opinion on Nintendo, like with the Switch? I know it's been very popular, and you have people that are very diehard with the Switch. Like, if it's not coming to Switch, you're not gonna. What is it? No Switch, no buy. And okay, this might be controversial to say, but I see a lot of people, a lot of the same people. I'm trying to carefully walk this line of saying this. A lot of people that would shit on the Wii U for having subpar quality in graphics and gameplay.
Yeah.
That now would praise the Switch for the exact same thing. So it's weird.
Yeah. So I think some people let a lot of things slide when it comes to the Switch, because they believe the gameplay is so good, right? That, and you know, there's a lot of like PC gamers that I know that they play PC, you know, for all its advantages, the high frame rates, the high resolutions, the freedom of choice, you know, keyboard, you know, controller, whatever, you know, all that stuff that comes, the perks, the bells and whistles that comes with PC, right? But then they'll demand all this stuff and you know, brag about all this stuff on PC, and you know, that'll be their standard, but then they'll throw all those standards out the window when it comes to a Nintendo Switch. And it's, to them, it's just because I guess the gameplay is just so good to them. And they have a long history with a lot of these Nintendo franchises, Legend of Zelda, because like Bond from my podcast, he's, his is super, he says all the time that he's not playing any games at like 30 frames and stuff like that. And for the most part, he doesn't, but he does make exceptions. The Legend of Zelda is one of those exceptions, so when it comes to certain Nintendo games, the gameplay is just so good for them that they're willing to throw all those standards out the window. So
yeah. I feel like with this new generation coming up within 4 weeks now, right? From the time of this podcast. Nintendo, I feel, has to make a revision on the Switch. They're going to have to do something because I feel like they are, in a way, handicapping themselves or handicapping. Yeah. If they didn't have the third-party support that they currently have going forward, it's you're not going to be able to get a lot of games that are on the Series X or on the PS5 to even run remotely smooth on the Switch going forward. So what do you think they're going to have to do?
I don't know, because like there's a lot of games like I remember the Mortal Kombat. They put that on the Switch, and it's literally a shell of what that game is on the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. It's a shell. I mean, it doesn't need. It's missing a lot of things that the other versions the other versions have. Just standard basic things like we know it's not going to look as good, but it looks really, really bad.
Yeah.
And even like some of the games are not even running at not even 30 frames. Some hit like between 20 and 30. A lot of just negative ways, a lot of negative things that draw the games back, and it makes it very not an ideal way to play. But it's on the Switch anyway, and it doesn't seem like people. I don't know how much those games are selling, but also it doesn't seem like many people are buying the Switch for certain third-party games anyway.
Yeah.
So it's almost like not as important for them. When you have things like Animal Crossing selling like 5 million in like a week or something like that, and you have the Nintendo first-party devs that are still putting out quality games on the same hardware that third-party devs are. That's just not enough for third-party devs to put their games on and make it up to par. So do I think they need a revision with better specs and more power? I mean, I would like it. I would buy it, but I wouldn't say they're necessarily pressed. I wouldn't say they're necessarily pressed to do it. I think as we go further along, in this once we get into the next generation, yeah, it's gonna be harder for even third parties to put their games on the Switch because the floor is gonna be really low. When you talk about the floor of the base PlayStation and the base Xbox, that floor is really low. Now you get even like lower when it comes to the the Switch, and that's like going to be a hassle for developers to really put a lot of their games on. So I think it'll be difficult for them, and they might see less third party support later on. So.
Okay. One of the questions I want to jump into before we do Q&A with the audience is talking about CD Projekt Red. There's been, and I know you have a lot of opinions on CD Projekt Red, and definitely want to give you the floor to speak on them. But I've seen the recent controversy with the article that was put out by Jason Schreier talking about the crunch. And then you saw today, a lot of that today has been happening, where Game Informer, was a Game Informer podcast where they said that the crunch information that Jason Schreier put out was misconstrued or misinformed. But what are your thoughts on crunch culture and in the gaming industry, as well as we can, I guess after you answer that, we can talk about how you feel about CD Projekt Red, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, so crunch, it's not that I personally don't necessarily care if a studio crunches. I don't wish it on any studio, obviously, because, I've in past jobs, I've worked, how many hours was it? Let's say, I've worked 12-hour days. And just 12-hour days, I know people work more than that. Just 12-hour days, you could be feeling like you got nothing left, like you about to just pass out and die just from 12-hour days. And I think I forgot what they say, like after working a certain amount of hours, your efficiency completely drops off a cliff anyway. You can't even do anything. You can't even function, right? So obviously it doesn't make sense to have crunch, honestly. I can't argue with some of the results though. When some studios have crunched and the result and the games we've gotten, it's quality stuff. So it doesn't necessarily bother me. I'm not mad if a studio crunches it or anything like that. Like I said, I don't wish it on anybody, but at the same time, I'm not like shedding a tear for those studios either. It comes with the territory of making video games when you have like deadlines and stuff like that. It just comes with the territory.
And tell us how you feel about CD Projekt Red.
So, I mean, look, CD Projekt Red is, some people think that like I just have this hate thing for CD Projekt Red. It's more that I just don't understand people's willingness to take a bullet for the studio. I don't hate them. I just don't know why people are ready to take a bullet for them. I don't understand why people are ready to take a bullet for any studio, but especially CD Projekt Red, because they've only made one franchise, right? And that's The Witcher, right? And when you ask most people, the first game they played from CD Projekt Red was The Witcher 3. Some people, there's a good amount of people who play The Witcher 2, but most people just really discovered them, or at least CD Projekt Red only got catapulted to being this top tier developer after The Witcher 3. When The Witcher 2 came out, nobody talked about them like that, like as far as like, being one of the best studios, and they weren't even in the conversation. So they really got catapulted into that like top tier conversation just off of The Witcher 3 alone, which to me doesn't make any sense, because in my opinion, like a studio has to like do at least 2 different games in my opinion, to really prove that they are a very talented and an impressive studio. Because you could just be a one-trick pony. You could have just, The Witcher 3 could be the one game that y'all were just happened to be really good at making. You could have just struck gold once. You don't know if you could do it twice. And so with Cyberpunk is coming out in the next month. If this game is amazing, okay, I can understand y'all acting like this with them. But like I said, it's just one game. There's other developers out there where I even though I don't necessarily, I'm not going to like jump and take a bullet for certain studios. I can understand why people act this way with Naughty Dog, because they created Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, The Last of Us, Uncharted. That's at least 4 games that people have been in love with since childhood, literally childhood. So I can understand that. CD Projekt Red gave you one thing, and it's recent. Like it's recent. So that's why I just don't understand it. And like I just don't like when they do this like virtue signaling, and like they try to make themselves seem like this golden child, the perfect child of the video game industry. Oh, we don't do this, we don't do that, because we're the good guys and everything like that. Shooting subliminals at others in other studios in the industry, which they obviously did a 180 on and kind of put their foot in their mouths. But that's my issue. My issue is honestly more about how their fans act more than the actual studio. It's really the fans I have a problem with. It's not so much even the studio.
Okay. See, Chips and Six had a question. He said, why do you think devs don't use the power of the consoles to the max? Wouldn't it mean a better product overall?
I mean, that goes into deep development conversation, and I don't like to act like I'm an armchair development arm developer. So I mean, I know you always hear about developers. Oh, we used we've maxed out the console making this game, and usually they always say that pretty early in a generation when it's never actually true. So I think you eventually start to see games being maxed out at the middle or the end of a generation, and you can usually tell when like all of that console's potential is being used, when you start to feel like this game is clearly being held back by the platform that it's on, right? Like I felt that way about Ghost of Tsushima. There's other games that you could like definitely that came out earlier than that you could make a case for that was definitely held back by the platform it was on. But Ghost of Tsushima is absolutely one of those products where like this is meant to be a PS5 game. The PS4 isn't doing this game justice, right? So I think the further you get in the generation, that's when you really start to see developers like really true using the console to its max potential.
All right, one of the questions I have that's it might be a little bit of a spicy one, considering you and I were both Avermedia partners, so it might be a slight bias in this, but for you, why did you choose Avermedia over Elgato? Because Elgato, and I know this has been like a topic lately, especially with that ring light that recently came out, and people were like, Elgato is the Apple of the content creator accessory industry. But for you, why did you choose Avermedia, and what are your thoughts on Elgato?
So I just organically discovered Avermedia's products, and I was big on their internal capture card, because to me, I'm less. There are some brand names that I will stick to when it comes to certain things, but as far as like capture cards, when I discovered Avermedia, I mean, the performance couldn't be argued with. They had great software. They had the specs I was looking for in a capture card. So it just like when I learned that they were creating a partnership program, and this is a product I could stand by, I was more than happy to join. With Elgato, I remember, I used Elgato products from the original HD60. Actually, was it the HD60? The square one. There was a square one. And I think the rounder one was the HD60 Plus. Whatever it was, I used it all the way back since then. And over time, as Elgato became more popular, more mainstream, they were the go-to brand and go-to product for like capture cards. They started to get a little bit involved in like elitism, where they would only associate themselves with the biggest brand, with the biggest names, the top streamers. And I understand that's like part of business, right? A lot of brands do that to a point, but Elgato just went over the top with it, where like if you weren't like, the top 1 or top 5% of personalities on YouTube gaming or Twitch, is like you couldn't even get like any type of attention or like any type of conversation going with them, as far as like, in sponsorships or a program. They didn't want to like really deal with you. I remember I actually reviewed the original Elgato capture card, and I put up my review, and Elgato even like tweeted it out that and this was a long time ago. That would never happen now, because they really only want to, like I said, involve themselves with the most elite of content creators and everything like that. Yeah. And then their price started to reflect it.
Yeah.
That ring light, what is it, $300 you said? Or and literally like typically I don't knock brands, like I don't knock prices for products if I feel it's worth it. This is literally a ring. See, it's literally a ring light that you can go on Amazon and find the equivalent for like 1/5 of the price. And there are some like, quality of life integrations that they put with their products, but it doesn't equal to a $200 price gouge. They're clearly doing it because they feel like they have the clout with their brand name to charge us for $300. I mean, even the other light they have, and the key light, I think it is. You can literally find one on the newer brand. Some people are familiar with them. I think they spell it NEEWER. They have lights, and I'm telling you, I bought one. It's literally the same thing. The only difference is that you can't control it through your phone. Like the key light, you can control the light through your phone. That's literally all it is. And they're very much doing the Apple thing, where they know the majority of people buy their products. So we can, price these at any price. And in the gaming sector, they don't feel like they have enough competition. That's really why they're doing it. In the gaming sector, they don't feel like they have enough competition. It's like, in makeup and in the makeup and beauty industry, there's, for them, they have a whole bunch of ring lights. But gamers, even if it's the same thing, the same product, the gamer wants the gaming ring light. A gamer typically, they're gonna look at the ring light that, like, let's say a makeup artist on YouTube has. Like, no, I don't want that one. I want the gaming one. So they know, and they're taking advantage of that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too. Like and I've used Elgato products for the longest, and I've even had Chris Huston on the show several times. But and I said to him, I was like, dude, every time I've had an Elgato product, I've always had problems with it. It's either a driver issue or, just crapping out, overheating. Even with my wife, when she got into content creating and streaming a couple of years ago, like she was using Elgato, constantly having issues. Like sometimes it just wouldn't capture. You had to unplug it, let it cool off, plug it back in. Mm-hmm. But the minute I switched over to using Avermedia, because, and here's the thing, like I love Avermedia. Like I said, we're both partnered with them. But like I didn't know a whole lot about it back in the day, because like a lot of people weren't talking about it. Like I remember seeing one of the ways I came across it. I saw one of your videos about it, and I was like, okay, let me try something else, because I know I'm gonna go through the same thing over and over with this. I went through 3 HD60Ss within the course of 1 month, literally. And their custom service is terrible. I'll say that much. So like when I got, I saw your video on the Live Gamer Ultra, the internal one.
Mhm.
I went and got it, and I've had it for almost 2 years now. I've never had an issue. It just works.
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
And it's like when I've seen influencers, sometimes I really hate saying the term influencer, but when I've seen a lot of them, you know, from the most prominent one that everyone goes to, you know, Alpha Gaming, to many others, I've seen them where there's a certain, it's interesting how they compare the Avermedia capture cards to the Elgato ones. And the way that they compare them is, oh yeah, the Avermedia is good on this, but it's terrible here. But the Elgato is perfect. You need to get this. And it's like, it's that elitism that I can't stand it.
It's a lot of that, man.
All right, down to last two questions, and then, you know, we can wrap up. We got a question from Lehua Superfina. So she says, we have an idea how much work you put into a day. What's your week like?
Man. So my typical week right now. So, I do still work, you know, full time. Thankful to still have my job during, you know, this quarantine and everything. But I still have still a lot of free time, even though I'm still employed. So most of my time right now is usually, honestly, just playing any games that I want to play, interacting with people on Twitter, watching a lot of YouTube videos. You know, I'm very much a consumer, you know, because I think like early on when I was doing YouTube, I did so much content creating. I just enjoy sitting back and being the consumer now of other videos. So I'm kind of chill, you know, I'm laid back. I mean, you know, I'm just kind of honestly enjoying life, watching a whole bunch of Netflix, watching a whole bunch of YouTube videos, sports, relaxing, looking out for gaming news, just playing games. Because, you know, we're gamers at the end of the day. That's what we should spend most of our time doing, is playing games, not just content creating, you know, because I've gotten to the point now where I've always tried to come up with a system to do the least amount of like editing, right? I've tried to find the path with the least resistance that I can create this video, be in and out quickly, right? I'm not the type I'm not the type that wants to do a whole bunch of post production and everything like that, because that only takes away from your time gaming, right? And I don't like that. I'm not trying to spend an hour from recording to uploading a video. When I record my videos, it's literally just typically one take, right? It's because I have everything already set up I have a format set up in OBS. The only thing I do, and I have like this little screen, you see my videos, I have this little screen, and then it's just me talking. The only thing I do is I put like a video in that screen, or like a picture in that screen, and I just go and I hit record on OBS, and I upload the video straight to YouTube. So I don't have to now, with that way, I don't have to do any post processing, you know, any post editing and everything like that. I'm not trying to do that. That only takes away from, you know, my time gaming. And yeah, I'm trying to do less work, not. So
yeah, and you know, that's definitely an approach that I think is really good. It's one that I've actually started doing too, because you'll see a lot of stuff where like you got people doing all these jump cuts and zoom ins and all these special effects. To me, I like watching that sometimes, but trying to do that constantly, it ain't for me.
I don't. I like the art of editing. Like I even want to become more proficient in like Adobe Premiere, and I even plan to like I'm even set to take this class in Avid. What is this thing? Avid Media Composer. That's like the editing program that like it's not like user level. It's like if you go to a news station or like one of these big companies that make videos, that's like one of the things they use to make videos, to you know, edit videos and everything like that. So I'm into all of that, learning it. But if I don't have to do it, I'm not doing it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. My last question for you, and I think this is really important for content creators. If y'all are listening to this when this goes up, or if you're watching it live right now, there's something, and I had this conversation, I touched on it briefly with the community manager for Voodoo Ranger, and it's pretty much content creators need to understand the difference between a sponsorship / partnership with the company versus an affiliate status of getting a link, and just where, you know, how like companies would be like, oh, you're partnered with us, but here is your discount code for you to buy the product. We're not going to send it to you. We're going to give you a discount on buying it yourself so you can buy and promote it for us. I feel like creators need to understand that there's a difference and not play themselves, because companies, at the end of the day, everyone's trying to get exposure and trying to get their product out to as many people's eyes with the least amount of energy, effort, and money spent. And some companies do really well about taking care of their, you know, if you're sponsored, like for us with Avermedia, they take care of us. That's one thing I love about it. Voodoo Ranger takes care of their folks. A lot of companies do. But then you have a lot of companies that don't take care of people, and they just like, you know, not throwing Razer under the bus, but Razer has a program where it's basically an affiliate status. You know, they're not really, they give you a discount code to get their stuff. So what is your advice to creators that, you know, a company is like, hey, we're going to partner you, but like, I guess you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So like they more use you as a salesman. You know, there's some like affiliate to me. I mean, technically, I think Twitch is a little bit different when they make you an affiliate, because you're still getting paid, right? With affiliate. I don't even know what the difference is between Twitch partner and Twitch affiliate. I'm a partner. I don't even know what the difference is between an affiliate and partner. But others, like when they make you an affiliate, they give you a discount code. It's a way for you to make money, but you're making barely, you know, you're not making a lot off of that. And it's really them just using you as a salesman. You know, when you're partnered or sponsored, that's them giving you, you know, the things you need, taking care of you, and they're seeing it as, okay, this person is going to, by using our products, by giving them our product and then believing in our product, they will talk about it and spread the word to the masses, and people will see that you trust our product, so it'll make them buy it. So I typically don't deal with any affiliate type stuff, because I feel like I'm not getting anything out of it really, unless you're one of those people who your audience is so big and your audience is likely to, like, you can tell your audience like, hey, if you want to buy this, use my discount code, and literally like maybe thousands of your audience will actually do it. That's different. But like, if it's just a few people using it, you're not going to benefit off of that. So, you know, to me, you just, I don't really involve myself in affiliates. In affiliate stuff, I feel like it's kind of like a waste and them just kind of using you. So, you know, I wouldn't really get involved in that stuff.
Okay. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with before you go?
Man, just appreciate the conversation. You know, everybody watching, check out Weapon Wheel Podcast on Sundays, 6 p.m. Look up BrokenGamezHDR on Twitter. On Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all of that, check it out. And I just appreciate being on here, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. It definitely got to get you back on the show in the future, man, whenever because here's the thing for the audience that doesn't know, we were actually supposed to have this going last week, same time, but I think Leho, can I share?
Yeah. Oh, you're actually your wife, right?
Hey, can I share her news? Okay. So this is going to be the first public announcement. So my wife and I are actually expecting our first kid. Mm-hmm. So last week we had to go to, we had our doctor's appointment, check and make sure the baby's healthy and everything like that. So again, I apologize for having to push this back, but man, I appreciate you being willing to work with us, work with the schedule and everything. I appreciate you coming on the show. Definitely would love to have you back on, man. We got to do this again. And everyone, if you haven't already, make sure you follow him. I'm dropping a link again. Make sure that's his my.bio with everything, links to everything there. And if you enjoyed the show, let us know. This is available. If you're watching it here on Twitch, it's available on all these platforms. So audio format, it'll be up in a couple days. Hey, I see you got a cat. I got a couple cats too, man.
Yeah, she's walking my desk like she owns the place. She wants to be fed now. Yeah, she wants to be fed.
But yeah, so you can catch this episode of the Kasanova podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, and so much more. And with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Man, thank you again for coming on the show. And with that being said, we're out. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I hope it was informative, engaging, and you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure you go ahead and leave a rating and a review. It greatly helps out the podcast and helps the platforms that we're on go ahead and promote us more so that more people can check it out. And if you're wondering what all platforms we're on, aside from what you've listened to it on, we're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music, and more. And if you want to support the podcast, then we've got Patreon, so patreon.com/Mekel Kasanova, which allows us to continue doing what we're doing. If you're looking for this in video format, we're also available on twitch.tv/Mekel Kasanova, as well as youtube.com/Mekel Kasanova. So with all that being said, I'll catch you on the next episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast and the #1 podcast in the Pacific, the Kasanova Podcast. You have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.